she's in queue. And can I call her in, Kev? All right, let's call her right in. Oh, okay.
Hey, here I am.
Okay. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you.
It's been a little too long. And I've been excited watching you. And this has been remarkable to kind of watch what you went through, the comeback. There's been a lot going on. But first, I have to say, you having a Purdue association.
Okay, where are we going with this? I'm not ready. Am I ready?
Yeah, you'll be fine. What this Indiana thing is are you trained to like not like them? Are you excited for them? Did you get caught up in Hoosier mania, or what is that experience like for you when you see something unlikely happen to the Hoosiers?
Okay, well, first of all, I spent part of my childhood in Terre Haute, Indiana, so I am a massive Larry Bird fan, and I became a very big IU Bobby Knight fan. So my freshman year at Purdue, Dick Vitale introduced me to Bobby Knight at a game, and it was a big Monday, Gene Katie, Bobby Knight thing. Now, could I have played for Bobby Knight? I don't know. I don't know about that. But actually am a big IU fan. But not obviously football, because who before last year was an IU football fan? Absolutely no one. So obviously a really amazing story of what can be done in a short period of time. And I don't watch tons and tons of college football, but I certainly watched the game last night. So it was a good game.
Fernando Mendoza, Signetti. I'm trying to think if you ever have some Signetti like body language, or you're not stoic.
I am definitely not stoic. That is correct. My college coach came through town last week and was at our game, and she brought a couple people, and they actually asked her if I coach like her. And so she asked me that question, and I said, I'm probably a little more animated than you. And she started laughing. So, yes.
I bet she was tough. Yet, the pictures I saw of her, I would have enjoyed quizzing her about you. And I bet you could help me land that interview. But she just seemed like a really kind, like when they showed her, I'm trying to think when I saw her, like on TV, or maybe I saw whatever pictures of her. And it is interesting when coaches have been out for a little while. Now, some of them, and I know somebody suggested to you that you could have TV in your future if you wanted it. It's always interesting to me when you have the kindly TV presence person, and then they go back to coaching, and you see them, and you're like, dang. Like I used to think that there was a guy that became a women's coach, Jimmy Dykes.
Oh, yeah.
To me, on TV, he always seemed like this very kind, whatever. And from what I could tell, Jimmy Dykes was no treat to play for some of.
Well, this was real interesting. So Jimmy Dykes actually followed my husband at Arkansas. So when my husband, when that went down there, Jeff Long hired Jimmy Dykes, and I remember thinking when I listened to his press conference, and he said he was choosing coaching for work-life balance, I thought he has no idea. Like, that's when I knew he didn't really understand, because, I understand as a broadcaster, he was doing a lot of traveling and was outside, of Northwest Arkansas a lot doing games, but there is no work-life balance in P4 coaching, like at P5 at the time, whatever. So no, I mean, that was interesting. That was an outside the box hire.
I would say so.
But you could argue that I was outside the box when it came to the Baylor job. Like, no one was talking about Nicki Collen at Baylor. Like, I wasn't in any tweets. You weren't tweeting about me being on the short list, Like, if this didn't happen, I could have quietly kept doing what I was doing, because no one was talking about it.
But you had that long history of coaching in college to go with the WNBA. It is funny because the name we did hear a lot was Molly, and now she's in the conference. So that's kind of interesting, to kind of watch how all that unfolds. But right now, the Bears are number 14 in the country. And does it almost feel like to you that you've already played like 3 different seasons?
That's
in some ways.
Yeah, there's 2 parts of that are interesting. One, um, you know, like when they announced that it was the best record we had through 20 games in my tenure, I had to kind of think back and go, is that true? Which I know that we wouldn't probably post it without it being true. Um, but I think the reality of this was our hardest non-conference schedule we've ever played. And also the way our conference schedule laid out to start with these road trips and to play, teams that are picked in the top 4 or 5 in our league, and an Oklahoma State or an Iowa State on the road early in conference play, kind of makes this a little bit surprising record wise. But it's hard to believe that, you think back to the Duke game and all the things that have happened to Duke since then, and now they're back to rolling. But also we're 2/3 of the way through the regular season. And so that's actually surprising too, that you look back and we've played that much of our season. So really proud of this group. I mean, would I love to play the Texas Tech game again? With Talia Scott healthy, absolutely. But I'm really proud of, kind of what this team has done, since that game.
Would you like to call out the Big 12 for scheduling or anything?
I would not. I would not. I will tell you, I think all coaches, no matter what year it is, you look at your schedule and there's a difficult stretch. It's no different than us playing TCU twice might be more difficult than some other team that we're competing with, that their permanent quote partner is always going to be who it is. And but it's the reality. Like I always say, like if I'm going to sell in recruiting that we're going to have a big platform, then I've got to live up to that, and that means that we have the fewest number of Wednesday, Saturday games because we're playing on TV on Sundays and Mondays. And it is what it is, and I certainly think that it's an advantage for us, and we sell it. So I can't complain about it in the midst of the season. And so you play the schedule in front of you. So, and you always have pockets. Last year we had a stretch where we were at Colorado on a Wednesday, home against Iowa State on Saturday, and on TV on Monday, against Kansas State at Kansas State, and so, you're always going to find these pockets that are more difficult. But, I mean, I tend to just complain in private.
I think that's smart.
Like
Yeah.
by nature, I don't think it changes anything. And so, yeah. I prefer not to give other people bulletin board material either,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's wise. Your bench is really interesting because it's like you have some scores over there, you have shot blockers, you got one player that one of these games, the Tech game, I guess, was when Ting went off. So it's deep in a lot of ways, but I don't know that exactly what you're going to get every night. How has that been for you? Because I feel like you pretty much know what all your starters are going to do, but you don't always know exactly what everybody's going to do off the bench. What's that like as a coach?
That is a fair
get
assessment.
A feel almost during
that's a
games,
fair assessment.
Or do you feel like you're getting a better feel for what your bench is going to give you?
I think sometimes it depends on the opponent, and the way they play, what we might get, I mean, certainly I think that Ting, take a couple games out of the equation. She can legit get double figures in every game. And she had, a couple plays in the first half against Utah, and then a couple plays early in the fourth when Bella and Bugs were both in foul trouble, that she hit shots to keep separation And so like when I think about the Utah game, like our bench was really good. And if you look at the plus minus, they were all pretty even and our starters were all plus 20, but we didn't get worse. They kept it even while they were in. And I think the bench, because of Ella's injury, because Nez is just coming back, I'm starting to see like what are they capable of doing and how can they impact us and will they impact us and how quickly will they impact us. But I think we know we're going to get scoring out of Ting the majority of times. I think we know we're going to get effort. Markayla went through a spell where she was playing really well and consistent minutes early. And then we got into the heart of, hey, we're icing this person, we're trapping this person, and all of a sudden we made it complicated for a freshman, where early in the season it was like just go play hard, go guard the ball, guard it really hard, and then try to play downhill, and all of a sudden she went through that freshman spell where she was overthinking, and usually when you're thinking you get it wrong. And so she kind of went through that. And I was actually really proud of the way she came in early in the BYU game. And it wasn't that she made 2 shots, it was just her energy on the glass really impacted us. She grabbed 5 rebounds and, just the effort. When teams are shooting between 20 and 30% from the field on you a lot of games, and we don't turn teams over a lot, that means there's a lot of defensive rebounds. And so we've got to finish possessions if we're going to get them to have first shot misses, sometimes even second shot misses. And so it's little things like that. So, I think Kyla's rim protection we can count on. I don't think we ever ask her to do a lot of scoring. So you're never going to see the advantage for us offensively necessarily, other than she's one of our best screeners off the bench. And so I like our bench, I think, but you're right. I can't count on, 8 points from Markayla and 6 points from Kyla. And, we've had games where Kayla's gotten us double figures. And so, there's a little bit of mystery. But they're all players I can play. And I thought Kira's minutes were good against Utah. And so, I think we can go to our bench and we don't have anyone that, like potentially could make us better. Will they always make us better? No, but I think they have a chance to do some things when they come in.
Well, I love what you did that one game that comes back since we've last talked when, and I know Tony does a good job and some of your coaches on defense, but that dig y'all had on Crooks when the game was on the line, that comes to mind. I mean, you've had some very interesting games. Let me ask you about Talia. The other night I noticed, she ends up with 6 rebounds and 5 assists, and scoring is what usually gets all the attention. There's probably some burden with her knowing, hey, I kind of, on this team, I probably need to be a 20-point per game scorer. But they're also, when she puts up numbers like that, it suggests that unlike some big time scorers, that she's okay deferring at times. Even just within this season, are you seeing her become a more complete player?
I think that's what we're always talking about, that growth factor. When is there a wall in front of you and when is there a sliver? Because she's pretty good at getting through cracks and finding a way to draw a foul or get the shot up on the rim. But when people build walls in front of her, trusting her teammates to make plays, I don't think I'm speaking for, obviously, because you asked me the question. I don't think she considers it a burden. I really believe kids like her want to shoot the basketball. You don't see her. I think about the Kansas game where she had 20 at half, but she had already taken like 18 shots in the first half. Misses don't seem to impact her desire to shoot the next one. And, I think she ended up like 2 for 10 from 3 in that game, and hit 2 threes in a row. And when she got to cooking, it was in the mid range, and playing off the high ball screen. And then Kansas went zone. So then, she got more threes. And so everybody defends her a little bit different. BYU top blocked her off pin downs. And And so we put the ball in her hands more in the middle of the floor. And so that's up to me to figure out how people are guarding her and how I can put her in the best position to get shots. The beauty of her is she can make a lot of different type of shots. So you don't just, if they take away the three, she can play in the mid range, she can draw a foul. But I certainly think her greatest growth, the difference between, to me, her being an All-American and I think eventually being a first team All-American is going to be that consistency in playmaking. I think there's no doubt she is one of the premier scorers in the country. Like there are very few better that can do what she can do. But I think it comes down to when the turnovers start to decrease, the assists start to go up. She doesn't need to average 8 assists a game, but finding her open teammates because attention is coming. Like when you're as good a scorer as she is, attention is coming. 2 and 3 bodies are going to be coming, and when she gets better and better at finding people, which you see glimpses of, that she's capable. When the game starts to be played that way for her, it'll truly be scary. And I think what people don't understand is this kid played 3 games last year in November, and then didn't play after middle January the year before. So she's really only about 50 games into her college career. Even though she's a junior and she does a lot of things that upper class kids do, her games played says she's still young. And so it'll be scary to see as she begins to really utilize. She's got a high basketball IQ. She does a good job taking charges. She's good in help side. As she starts to use some of that and makes plays at the defensive end that creates opportunities, like there's a lot of areas that she can continue to get better in.
Yeah, she may be the best player in the conference, quite honestly. I mean, there are probably players that score more, but yeah, I mean, she's showing a lot. Bella, great player for you over the years, steady, offers you so much. Did you have to kind of almost, and it seems like her scoring and even her shooting starting to kind of round into form a little bit. Did you at one point kind of have to start rebuilding her confidence a little bit? It just seemed like she got in such a rough way. How have you kind of handled that? Because both with Bugs and Bella, as great as they've been for you, have gone through some major shooting slumps this season. What do you do with a player like that who's obviously been a scorer and been successful to kind of help pull them out of those sort of things?
Yeah, I think with Bugs, it was her leaning into being good at what she's good at. And, I think a lot happens with players when they become seniors and there's a sense of urgency and they see their name on draft boards and there's an expectation that you do more than you did, and getting her to understand the whole reason she was on a draft board in the first place is by doing what she does. And that's rebounding, it's making her mid-range shot. It's not trying to do things that, or force things. And, I think she's back to being Bugs. Like I was this internal, external, all this pressure, that I think just made her overthink. And, she had never done that in her career. She had always just, I'm going to go rebound. I'm going to get shots in transition. I'm going to do the little things. I'm going to keep the ball moving. The beauty of Bugs has always been she's a ball mover. So getting her to trust that the things that she's good at, she needs to just continue to do, and good things will keep happening for her. And I think she said it in a press conference. She said, I got out of my feelings and got to rolling, and I said, I almost feel like I need to put that on a t-shirt, because she just kind of like let go of like these expectations. And on the flip side, I think Bella was pressing too much too. I mean, you've got 2 players that probably felt like, I've waited my turn to be, Bugs has been a captain, Bella's been all defensive, but going into the season, both of them preseason all conference. And all of a sudden, Talia's taking 20 shots a game and scoring 20 points, and they're trying to figure out how to play with a different player than they've ever played with, which is absolutely true. But I think they've also learned to appreciate that they need her to be that. Our team needs her. And that when they try to do too much themselves, it wasn't successful, quite frankly. And so I think with Bella, it was our conversations more stemmed around, look, you're the head of the snake defensively. You can lead at that end. You're going to get shots. Like let's lean into, get a steal. Because you know what they're getting ready to do and shooting a gap. There were times I thought Bella was taking 4 shots in the first 2 minutes. And if she went 0 for 4, like that was it for the game, as opposed to like letting the game come to her and understanding what are you good at? Baseline rip drive, quick finish, it's the trail three. It's the, she makes those plays, and those are good enough for us to win because she's so good defensively, and just to kind of lean into like what her role is and be okay with it, because it means tons of minutes. It means tons of respect. Like it doesn't and I always said this when I was coaching in the pros, and I would sign free agents or draft players or bring them into training camp on training camp contracts. And I would always say to them, show me what you can do, not what you can't, and like, I brought you here for a reason. This is why I brought you here. Do this, and you got a chance to make this team. Try to do things you're not as good at to prove to me that you can do those things. It's probably going to get you cut. And so you've seen Bugs get back to where now she's shooting over 50% again. She's averaging she's right at a double double. She's back to being Bugs, and Bella, I think, is playing. She's just not forcing as much action. I think she's allowing the game to come to her better. She's still going to take open shots. Do I wish she shot it better than she's shooting it overall? Yes. But I think if she takes good shots, we have a good chance to rebound the ball. We have a good chance that she's going to make those shots. But when she's forcing it, it's a little tougher.
That's interesting what you said about the draft boards, because in some sense they could get it in their mind that they're in like a contract year. And
yes.
Yeah.
It happens. It happened to Dre Edwards. It happened to Asia Blackwell. It happens to all of them when individual goals collide with team goals, and sometimes they don't feel like they align. And every good player who has those aspirations has those moments, most of them anyway, where the alignment feels off. And, you got to kind of deal with that this is a team sport. And, at the end of the day, like, what do they want? What do they want their senior year to look like? And they've won their whole career. Like, this is what we need to do to win, and I think that's what the point they've come to. And, we didn't deal with that with Jana. Jana was just happy to be back playing. Like, the expectations were different. KJ's just happy to be on the floor because she didn't get on the floor much at Oklahoma. So everyone's situation is different, but usually with seniors who've had a lot of history, there's a sense of urgency that happens at some point if things aren't going, in some kind of an alignment for them, or what they feel like is alignment.
Okay, you've got a film session coming up, so I want to be respectful of that. Last thing I had for you, UCF and Houston coming up. Houston made a change, for this season, so a little bit of this is somewhat new. What about these games? Obviously, you on that road trip, it was a really good swing for you. I saw some Baylor fans were out there. I saw Joel Allison, by the way, in stand to see former board of regent, my dad's old college roommate. What about these games though coming up? I know they're big for you. What do you have to kind of key in on these teams?
Yeah, I think both these teams are. It's about paint points. It's about minimizing points in the paint for them. It's keeping them off the foul line. Neither one of these teams is a team that relies a lot on the three ball. They play a lot of players who are mid-range jump shooters, or they play through the post and need the ball and need it to score in the paint. They can create turnovers. Both these teams have good athletes. So there's some similarity. I think UCF's post game is a little bit stronger in terms of their wanting to play through the paint. Knowing Satia, you're going to see a little of the high-low that Coach Mulkey ran here, and a lot of overload, a lot of ball screen stuff, on the wing. But, teams that I think UCF has been competitive in pretty much every game in the Big 12. 2 wins, good win against Colorado, um, this Sunday. But just teams that, like, you just can't take anyone in this league for granted. The league's too good. There are no games that you can show up and beat. Even Houston, has played teams well. They haven't always had the ability to finish. They played one game with like 7 players because they had 4 ejected because of a fight against Kansas State. Matthew Mitchell obviously did an amazing job at Kentucky and didn't step away at the time because of lack of success. So it's going to take a minute to rebuild probably there, but as we saw with Indiana, with the portal, you can rebuild a whole lot faster than you could in the past. And so, he's always been a guy that liked to press and wasn't afraid to play small ball. And, so two teams are going to compete really, really hard for coaches that have that mentality that they're going to go out and they're going to defend and they're going to rebound and they're going to get points in the paint.
Great catching up. Man, look forward to this stretch. And then you have a whole week and then get rolling again. So I look forward to our next conversation. And
so we feeling good about the portal and football? Like, what's the sentiment
after the Indiana win?
For Baylor, I'm talking about.
Oh, Baylor football. I'm sorry. I
don't care about Indiana.
DJ Lagway being signed, you get like a monster. He was once thought to be the best recruit in the country. And that kind of gives you a little, and it was by the way, it was a shaky roller coaster of a signing.
It was interesting.
I might have been in that crowd ready to yank that thing off the table, but now that he's here, everybody will coalesce around him. But this is a haymaker that Dave and his staff are throwing. They know they got a kind of a 1 year prove it or lose it type thing. So go out, get the best players you can get in the portal, see what you can put together. So I'm kind of excited. They got great, exciting receivers. And I mean, what everybody's going to do now is try to be Signetti. Let's go find, so if I was Baylor, I would just take like 20 players from James Madison.
Right. Who is our local James Madison though? Like, who is our
Texas State? Yeah. Well, we get a lot of receivers from there, and so anyway, I'm excited to see what they can do.
I mean, it looks good. What's coming across my Twitter feed and stuff. I haven't asked any insiders. I just, it's kind of amazing how you get a DJ and how all of a sudden there are receivers and tight ends that want to follow. Because if you're a receiver, you're probably only as good as your quarterback.
Yeah. My thought is DJ's a pretty good negotiator, because suddenly once the thing's signed, then like his old high school teammates have ended up on this roster.
Right. Hey, there's something to be said. There are great players, and there are great players that are also great recruiters. So that's a special thing for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll have fun. Well, I appreciate it. Have a great one. And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, there she goes. Nicki Collen joining the Matt Mosley Show.